What's up, guys? This will be a how to play Dragonite like a pro guide, focusing on Hyper Beam. I will not talk about Outrage in this build on this guide. And I thought it would just be great timing for, Hyper Beam Dragonite, since it's currently one of the best Pokemon and very, very popular. It's one of the best all-rounders or best Pokemon in the game for jungle as well. Only jungle though, I would not recommend playing this Pokemon in lane. Mainly talking about him in the jungle position, where he can take over games and has probably one of the best ways of getting the first Dreadnought out of any Pokemon. Looking at his stats for a second as well, we can see he gains crit 10% on level 5 and 5% lifesteal on level 5. Then further we go into the game, on level 9 he gains another 10% crit and another 10% lifesteal. It's going to stay at 20% crit, and then he gets 15% lifesteal and level 13 as well. So your auto takes do lifesteal a good amount. Otherwise he has very high base attack as well. And for the build, obviously Dragon Dance and Hyper Beam. Extreme Speed does not work with Hyper Beam. It's absolutely awful. Always go Dragon Dance if you play Hyper Beam. And then we have the head items. I would always recommend Muscle Band. And the other ones are really flexible. So I think Scope Lens and Focus Band is like Focus Band or Body Barrier is the most standard thing you can do. You can also go Eraser Claw over Scope Lens. You can also go double defensive items, which is also, I think, still totally fine on this Pokemon. There's a lot of times if you don't have Body Barrier, you will just die falling out of the, or like going to your Night move. When you're in a team fight, you might just die going up into the air. So Body Barrier will help you with that as well. And you can also just go full damage items. You can go full crit, Muscle Razor, Scope Lens. You can also go maybe a Razor Claw with an attack weight, totally fine as well. You can even play something like this. You can see here's a lot of different things you can do, but I would always recommend Muscle Band. But I think the safest one is probably one of these two builds. Right here we have Muscle, Scope Lens, or Razor Claw as our second damage item, totally fine. And then for the third one we have Focus Band or Body Barrier. We can also play attack weight here instead of a crit item, also totally fine. Again, Hyper Beam has very good scaling, so if I go back right here 1 second, we can see that Dragonite or like Hyper Beam has very high attack damage scaling, so the more attack damage we gain from attack weight, right, the more our Hyper Beam will do as damage. Right here, I'm going to talk about these stages in a bit as well, 300%, so it's a good bit of extra damage, especially if you hit more multiple targets, but obviously it can be quite hard to stack. For health items, I think, full heal is the best one, just because in case, you're the one that gets objectives, if you get stunned, your Hyper Beam can't get out and you might not be able to get the last hit on an objective, right? That's why I prefer full heal. But X speed is totally fine as well. And for the last one, we can also go X attack. If you especially like to play, basic attack, auto attack, Dragonite with these items and just go, just auto attack the enemies on cooldown a lot, then X attack is very, very strong as well. For the basics moves, we have Dragon Breath and Twister. We always start with Dragon Breath. It just is a cone damage into a direction. Does damage after, a short amount of delay, and then afterwards we gain a boosted auto attack as well. And then we have Twister, which is probably one of the worst moves in the game when it comes to basic moves. It sensors this Twister, does a bit of damage, and it slows. It really doesn't do too much, and we get rid of it pretty early anyways. So Dragonite's passive is a bit different. Dratini and Dragonair have a different one than Dragonite. For Dratini and Dragonair, they get defense stats after you get infected by a status effect. And as you evolve to Dragonite, after you get basic, it doesn't matter. If you take damage from an enemy Pokemon, you take 20% less damage for 2.5 seconds, and you can see the effect right there. This ability effect does not trigger during its cooldown. It has a 15-second cooldown, so it can only happen every 15 seconds. But yeah, Dratini, Dragonair, you get defense stats only if you have a status effect afflicted on you. And for Dragonite, it is just anything that attacks you, but only enemy Pokemon as well, not wild Pokemon. So, it doesn't get triggered here. It has to be an enemy Pokemon. Alright, so now the most probably confusing part about Dragonite is his boosted auto attack. He has 3 different boosted auto attacks, and they also only appear after you level up. Dratini, you can see the blue one right here, has the blue version, which is, water. And this one just does, it heals. It just heals for 5% of his HP, you can see it right here. And this is the only one that Dratini has. Also, additionally, all of Dragonite's boosted auto attacks reduce the cooldown of the other moves. So we use Dragon Breath, go to the boosted auto attack, and you can see the cooldown is reduced. And all of the boosted auto attacks actually reduce the cooldown. Now when we get to level 5, we go to Dragonair, we get another boosted auto attack. So you have the blue one first, the water one, and then we get an electro version as well. This electro version stuns our opponents. You can see right here. You can see the confusion thing, and afterwards we go back to the Hydro one. So now we have Hydro and Electro cycling one after another for this as well. And again, same as the other thing, it reduces cooldowns by 1 second after we use this one. And then on the Dragonite evolution we get another one. So again, we start with Water, go into Electro, and then this time we have Fire. And Fire does damage based on the enemy's max HP, so it's a lot of extra damage it does as well. So also very, very nice. In general, it doesn't really matter like what you do with these. But just be aware that, you can be, maybe you just know, okay, my next one's going to be a stun, so maybe I can stick around, the next one's going to be a heal, so I can also stick around, right? And it's always the same cycle as well. It's always Water into Electro, into Fire, always the same cycle. And again, all of them also reduce the cooldown of your other moves. Dragon Dance, I haven't talked about this yet, but yeah, we can see right now for Hyper Beam, you can see Hyper Beam cooldown. Every boosted auto attack resets the cooldown of it by 1 second. So on level 5 we get Dragon Dance, and Dragon Dance, another move that has so many things going on. First of all, it's a dash in a direction that's also alternating, though always a bit different. So right now we have a dash this direction, then we have like a half moon in this direction and a half moon in this direction. So you can see it always alternates between these two, similar to the boosted auto attack later on, and this is just the first part. The second part is we gain attack speed after using it. So right now this is my normal attack speed. You can see it's quite slow after using Dragon Dance. You can see it's much faster. So this is the first thing you get from it. Then we also get move speed from it. You can see we're a bit faster right now, as long as we have this. And now we get slowed down again. Now we get move speed again. And yeah, you can see we're a bit faster. So then the next thing we have is on the bottom right, we have a counter. So Dragon Dance has stages. The first stage gives you 8% more attack damage, the second stage gives you another 8% more attack damage, and the last one also gives you another 8% attack damage. So in total, you get on these stages, basically get bonus attack damage. So we first have 8%, got a bit up for the next one, then now we have 16% bonus attack damage, and now we have 24 bonus attack damage. And this one on the bottom right, you can see it, the stacks, they will run out of time eventually and you go back to 0. And these stacks are very important for the Hyper Beam, which I will talk about as well in a second, after we talked about Dragon Dance. Very important. And then Dragon Dance also, not just only does that, it also reduces the, like every basic attack reduces the cooldown of Dragon Dance. You can see it right here, every single basic attack reduces the cooldown, which is also very important, so you can keep being your Dragon Dance stacks. In general, you just need one auto attack to stay in your thing, so right now we Dragon Dance, gotta make sure we get one basic attack off, and this will be enough to go into our second stage as well. So always make sure you get at least one basic attack off when you go into Dragon Dance. That's always enough to go to the second or next stage. On level 11 we get Dragon Dance Plus, which just gives you extra move speed if an opponent is close. So after Dragon Dance ends, we gain another chunk of move speed. Or like after here, you can see that there, right? You can see if you fly close to something, you get this. There's even an animation for it. You get this insta speed after the end of the animation. So right at the end of this, you get bonus move speed, but an opponent has to be around. So like right here, we don't get it. The range is quite small as well. We have to fly. We have to pretty much be in proximity of the opponent for the move speed to be there. On level 8, we finally pick up Hyper Beam, which, you know, makes this build be the build that is very important. It's a point and click move. Dragonite charges up the Hyper Beam and it goes on to a target, and everything in this line is also getting hit by it. So it does AoE damage, or does damage in this complete line. So everything that gets hit by this beam will take damage. And this is where Dragon Dance becomes very important, because Hyper Beam on its own doesn't do a lot of damage. It does a lot to this thing because it has percentage damage in its base kit. So every single Dragon Dance stack, you can see if we're going to use Dragon Dance once right here, you can see our Hyper Beam icon on the bottom increasing. Do it again, and it has increased as well. Every single of the Dragon Dance stages will make our Hyper Beam deal more damage. And not just by a bit, by a lot. So if we are at 0 stages right now, our Hyper Beam does 5% damage and less base damage. On stage 1 we do 10% HP damage, max HP damage, and since max HP damage is always the same onto a target. It doesn't matter how low they're on HP, it's always calculated from how much, health they have in total. On stage 2 we get 15% max HP damage, and on this third stage we get 20%. And not just that, also the base damage also gets increased. I can just show a chart right here of how much damage you more get per stage. So it's just very important, just be around like this and make sure you build up your Hyper Beam, because the damage difference is absolutely insane if you have, Dragon Dance stacks or no Dragon Dance stacks, of course. So always make sure you never use Hyper Beam like this. On level 13 Hyper Beam Plus, we take reduced damage by channeling it. There's no indicator for it, but we take 50% less damage by channeling our Hyper Beam, which I mean is quite a lot. So it can help you, be a bit more tankier in certain scenarios. Maybe you can also time your Unite move or your Hyper Beam a bit better to when opponents jump here like, oh, I'm just on a Hyper Beam right now to take 50% less damage. Can also be used as a good defensive tool. On level 9 we pick up Dragonite's Unite move, and is a global ability kinda. You can fly to a point where you want to fly, and this is very interesting Unite, because depending on how far you fly, the more of your Unite move gets, bigger cooldown. So if you just fly on top of yourself, you only lose 51% of your Unite move. I have to obviously turn on cooldowns for it to be the thing. So right now I'm gonna fly myself, only 50%. But if I fly very far away, my Unite goes on a full cooldown, and it has, right here you can see, you can see literally there as well, right? The game literally tells you how much of your Unite move you're losing flying to somewhere. And after landing, you just do damage in the area, a lot of damage, and you also knock up your opponents. Otherwise, Dragonite is a pretty straightforward Pokemon. For early game on level 5, this is very important for the boosted auto attack. So this is a way of doing a lot of damage. You do boosted auto attack into Dragon Dance, into boosted auto attack, or Dragon Breath I mean, and you can do a lot of burst damage for early game. This is also something I said maybe earlier, just to, there's always Electro after Hydro for this Pokemon. So if you have a boosted auto attack ready, or you have your Hydro one ready, you can do this, and now you can instantly stun on your next basic attack, which can be very important for 1v1s. Otherwise, this Pokemon is very straightforward. There's not really a lot of combos on it. Again, I already explained earlier that you just need one basic attack for your Dragon Dance. Otherwise, you just auto-attack a lot, right? You Dragon Dance around, and then you can obviously aim your Hyper Beam what you want. You can also auto-aim it. Besides that, we don't really want to auto-aim it, right? And then, of course, this Pokemon, as I mentioned, is just very good for taking objectives down. Of course, this Dread right here is a bit squishier, but you always can go into try mode and just, start using Hyper Beam against this thing and see how much damage you do. So we auto-take this a lot. And again, we do 20% damage, and we also do base damage. So right here, it's already enough to just kill Dreadnought. And going to try mode, of course, you have to wait a bit for the time as well, just so the Dread is not under-leveled. But that's a good way of, practicing the last hit mechanic. Since again, the percentage damage is still going to be the same. Doesn't matter how squishy something is, right? And yeah. So it's just something very important. Same for Zapdos, that you just understand a lot. That's just something you have to do by playing a lot to understand. Here I did a bit too late now, or too early. Not too late, because I just crit on my boosted auto attack there, so I did a lot more damage than I thought. So it's just something you have to learn. Besides that, how your Night move you kind of just use on yourself a lot in team fights, but you have to be careful. You can actually die during it. So if you get hit by a lot of Pokemon, you can actually die in the air as well. You're not invincible. Flying up, you're not invincible. Just gonna want to say that. You can die while flying up into the air. Otherwise, yeah, you just use it for your attack speed bonus, right? We just fly next to something. We can use Buddy Berry as well for this. In a team fight, we just fly up and go into a Dragon Dance, and we just start auto-taking a lot with the bonus attack speed from our Unite move, get to 3 stacks on our Dragon Dance, and just try to Hyper Beam something, kill something very fast. And then we can keep being at these Dragon Dance stacks, get our next Hyper Beam up, and just do a lot of damage. Let's jump into some gameplay. So we always start with Dragon Breath. For the head items in this game, I had Focus Band, I had Muscle Band, and Scope Lens. We Dragon Breath this, start auto-taking it, and, just auto-taking, auto-taking, auto-taking. Keep our next Dragon Breath for the buff spawn. Right here, I'm just going to spawn it already. Kill the Lillipup. I mean, I kind of got stuck in the one in the beginning there, so don't mind that. Again, boosted auto-attack into Dragon Breath into boosted auto-attack. Always make sure you cycle those. Otherwise, you lose a lot of damage. So again, we do boosted auto-attack into Dragon Breath into another boosted auto-attack. Very, very important. And now we can already look where we maybe want to gank. But we need to be level 5. Of course, Dratini is super, super weak, right? But when you get to Dragon Dance, Dragonite is actually quite strong. We do a lot of damage. Again, we get these stages where we get more basic attack damage as well for early game. So it kind of can ramp up quite nicely. So right now, I'm going to go into my first Dragon Dance. Going to start auto-attacking. I will have my next Dragon Dance thing up as well. They rip off Slout, try to go for the Zaora, but he sadly gets away. And we just keep chasing. So Dragon Dance, again, every basic attack reduces the cooldown. So it's very good for chasing as well. And for just hanging around. And we're just going to auto-attack them on the go here. Going in again. We'd likely get the Kion Lucario and enemy junglers out here, so we can just dive this for free. I could have maybe scored 70 points there, but I kind of didn't want to waste too much time. But I probably could have just done it. I thought Zara maybe comes back, but yeah. Dragonite is someone I can go for mid Corpfishes if you want to, but honestly I would still recommend probably going for the buff rotation. But again, Dragonite is a Pokemon that doesn't need level 9, right? So you can actually hang out a bit. I see on bot lane the enemy jungler is still there, so I kind of gave up the Corpfish to maybe make it towards bot side. Just trying to stack up my Dragon Dance a bit and look for a gank. The only problem with this is you can get invaded by your team or by the enemy jungler. So I'm just going to invade the enemy team now and look if something is up here. Go for the red buff. So again, I can do these kind of things as Dragonite because my level 8 is pretty much guaranteed. But I'm just like, okay, I don't even know where the enemy jungler is. Like, I thought it was the Absol. But now Gwyn just taking this, and I didn't want to fight because I didn't have vision on bot side. So I just decided to recoil there, take my buffs as well. And I'm just going to go on my way to level 8. Again, this is not optimal necessarily. You don't have to do this as well. You can also just get to level 9, just do the 6 buff rotation. But again, Dragonite is a Pokemon that can stay a bit longer in lanes just because he just needs level 8 to win the first Dragonite. To win the first, Dreadnought. So I did waste a good amount of time there. But if I'm bot lane now, we can fight for these bees and get one Audino, and we should get to level 8 still quite easily. Fully is also quite nice in this meta. Again, Psycho Cut Absol is very popular, so having full here is very, very nice against Absol. Can move the Psycho Cut marks if we want to. So trying to get level 8 here, trying to secure these things. Dragon Breath is our best secure, sadly we don't quite get it there. Keep Dragon Dancing around, very, very important. Keep our Dragon Dance stacks up as much as we can. And there we go, we're gonna evolve to Dragonite now. And the thing with Dragonite is you just want to do Dreadnought instantly. This is a Pokemon that just does the first Dreadnought as soon as it spawns. So I'm gonna Dragon Dance into it, start auto-taking, making sure I stay at 3 stacks. Got the fully as well in case I get stunned. And we're just gonna Hyper Beam it right here. And there we go, we get it. We also delete the Delphox. I'm just gonna keep auto-taking right here. It's very important as well, you keep auto-taking on this Pokemon. He's pretty much like Cinde's Greninja, just obviously a bit less damage, but his auto-take damage is absolutely crazy. So just make sure you keep auto-taking. If you crit as well, you do 1000 damage per, auto-take, and we just kill them all. Another Hyper Beam goes into the aura. Gonna dive this Delphox as well. I really want to Pentakill right here. I'm very close to it. Another Dragon Dance, Hyper Beam. I stunned him as well with my Electric, boosted auto-take, and we get a Pentakill. Kind of want to keep pushing this as well if we can. Gonna keep auto-taking, keep trying to stay my 3 Dragon Dance stacks on the bottom. You always have to check there. Very, very important. You make sure that you have your Dragon Dance stacks up. Looking for another Hyper Beam, but now I really wanted to maybe score here, but our opponents do come back after another, so just abandoning it now. One of my buffs has respawned. Again, it's another Pokemon we also want to be level 14 in. You're kind of like, you're not really a carry Pokemon. Like Cinde's and Greninja, they're much better for late game team fights, but you can still do a lot of damage, and it's just very important as a jungler, you're the main carry, to be high level for late game, right? So, still important to still just farm. And we have our Unite move up right now. You can decide to either, again, use Unite move to fly it to a team fight, or use it on yourself for the attack speed bonus. Right here, I'm just using it very closely, so I get the attack speed bonus. I'm going to start auto-attacking and building up my Dragon Dance stacks again before I Hyper Beam. Right here, I'm going to Dragon Dance forward again. Here, I did a mistake. I auto-aimed my Hyper Beam, so it goes into the wrong target, but we stay at max range, try to still outplay. Oh, my Hyper Beam was so close of killing the Greninja as well. Sadly, didn't quite get it. And this is why you probably shouldn't auto-aim as well. My Lucario came off the bush at a bad time. Right when I pressed Hyper Beam, Lucario came off the bush, he was lower HP than the Greninja, and he was tanking it for him, so... I mean, that's just like kind of bad, bad timing, or just a bit of unluck as well, so... Next turn now spawning, I probably should be there as well. I thought I could maybe get my Unite move up and maybe fly into the fight, so I'm just gonna take the buff very fast. I have about 90% again, so as long as my team doesn't instantly fight, I should be fine. And they actually still hit Lucario, so now I can maybe fly in, but Greninja's backdrawing on top anyways. So I can still have time right now. I have 3 Dragon Dance stacks auto-attack once, but I sadly couldn't Dragon Dance. Fly into the enemy team now. This time I use my Unite as an engage tool as well again. Go into this, I thought I was already fire spent, so I just full hit there to make it go away, and in the end I wasn't even. But it's still slowed as well, I was slowed by it, so it doesn't matter what. Have our Hyper Beam right here, we pick up the next red as well, and we also delete Greninja at the same time. It's always funny when you get the last hit on the objective and the enemy is still just around as well. Look at this damage. I mean, I'm 3 levels above him, but still. And I actually have a boosted auto attack there with my stun. It hits him, one more basic attack, and we actually get another kill on him. Gotta run away now. But I'm still full Dragon Dance stacks, I have a Blissey next to me, so I'm gonna look for another Hyper Beam onto the Absol. One more basic attack, but sadly this time the Absol does get away. Also, it's very important, I think I haven't mentioned this, you don't have to be at 3 Dragon Dance stacks when the damage comes out. You just have to be at 3 Dragon Dance stacks the moment you cast Hyper Beam. So if you cast Hyper Beam and your Dragon Dance stacks go away, you will steady damage. You will steady the damage as 3 stacks. It just matters what stage you're in the moment you press Hyper Beam. That's also very, very important to know. Now we go get ready for the Zapdos fight. All the experience is up, the enemies were very mad and decided to kill me there. So, I mean, I was Hyper Beaming them the entire game. I'm looking for this Lucario right here. I'm gonna keep auto-attacking, chase him with Dragon Dance. I got the Dragon Dance plus as well now, so again, we get bonus move speed around him, but in the end, couldn't quite reach him. Hyper Beam him, and he actually almost dies. Actually almost died. The beasts are spawning, but I decide, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna take my buffs, get level 14, and then be ready for the Zapdos fight. Red buff is very good on Dragonite, of course, since you basically attack a lot. So just make sure you always have red buff ready for yourself. There we go, Hyper Beam with the red buff. Going over to blue buff now. Gonna start killing it as well. You can angle our Hyper Beam to hit both of these, Corpfish and the blue buff, just to make sure we are even a bit faster, more efficient at killing things. You can always make sure your Hyper Beam can hit, again, multiple targets at the same time in a line, so you can always line up white Pokemon as well for you to make stuff even faster. Dragonite is someone that's very good at the last Dreadnought fight if you really want to have it, since he's so good at securing it. But right now we're actually kind of scary. Enemy Absol uses Unite move here, So that's very good for us. Can keep this in mind and just make sure that Absol, you know, we can now just go into the Absol in the last team fight and actually probably kill it. We can't sadly go for the strat, Hyper Beaming the Absol, barely gets away from it, and then we get the last strat now, but again, not too big of a deal, right? This is really not too big of a deal. Make sure we have Zapdos positioning, and we want to build up our Dragon Dance stacks as well. So we can always auto-take Zapdos maybe once, just to make sure we can have the current reduction for our Dragon Dance stacks. The Corphish is also great, chasing this Lucario down. He's so far out of position, and we finally get him. And again, make sure we have full Dragon Dance stacks. Right here, I'm going to start out taking Corphish. I don't like flipping necessarily instantly in solo queue. Again, I'm Dragonite, so I'm confident I can do it. And yeah, Dragon Dance backwards again, we Hyper Beam. And our Zapdos actually suddenly dropped. My team was just ripping Zapdos. And we luckily get it though in the end still. Then we just disappear. They had no chance in this team fight. And we pick up Zapdos and win the game. Hope you guys enjoyed this guide. I hope it helps you to understand Dragonite a bit better, because there's a lot of players that actually use Hyper Beam on no stacks, even in my games, so always make sure that you understand how this Pokemon works with Dragon Dance and Hyper Beam. It's actually quite straightforward after probably watch this video. And otherwise, I would appreciate you guys if you like the video and subscribe to my channel. If you want to see damage numbers, maybe there you go. 85,000, 39% team damage.